Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be discussing all of the makeup products that were released in 2023 and that I have tried out on my own mature and dry and sensitive skin. And there are about 130 products total, so I will be letting you know which ones were really great for me, which ones were really terrible, and which ones were in between. And I also will be putting on a full face of makeup using my favorite products from each category. So first, a little bit of information about me. I'm 59 years old and I do have dry and sensitive skin. In addition, I have never had any kind of cosmetic procedures like injections or surgery, and I don't intend to ever do that. And over the past 3 years, I have tried out nearly 1,000 makeup products, and so I have a pretty good basis of comparison for everything new that I try out. And there are certain ingredients that I have found that always do irritate my skin, and that other people's skin is also irritated by very frequently, and so I just don't discuss products with those ingredients on this channel. So for each product category, I gave all of the products that I had tried a grade. So for the A products, those are ones that I have really enjoyed using. There may or may not be some flaws in these products, but they are still ones that I have continued to use over time and that I'm anticipating continuing to use in the future. Products that are rated as Bs are ones that I think I could get some use out of, but that I've found to be less desirable than other products in the category and that I really don't intend to use very much. Products that are rated C are ones that are more products that I really think have a problem, at least for people with my own mature and dry and sensitive skin. Products that are rated as F are ones that really haven't worked out for me at all and that I would hesitate to suggest that other people buy. And then there are products that I put down as disqualified because they irritated my skin. And I have discussed almost all of these products at length in previous videos. So what I will do is that when products have been shown in a previous video, then I will put the thumbnail on the screen, and I also will put a link in the first pinned comment. So now let's get started, and we will start out with foundations, and there have been 10 foundations that were released in 2023 that I have tried out already. So the one that I liked the best is the Makeup by Mario foundation. I think that for many people, especially people who are over maybe 50 years old, I think that this foundation has really particular advantages in that it creates kind of a plumping look on the face that makes older women look less gaunt because as you get into your 50s or so, you have a lot of fat volume loss in your face. And I think that this product and also the Jones Road What the foundation are particularly useful for women that are in this age group because they put a kind of a little bit of a shield on the face that makes it just look a little bit fresher and a little bit younger. Now these are fairly thick foundations, and so in the video footage I thinned it down with moisturizer a little bit so I wouldn't get quite as much coverage. And I also don't think that there really are enough shades of this foundation, especially when we're talking about the lighter shades. And so I ended up, to get a good match, to combine 2 different shades of the foundation. So there are a few disadvantages of this foundation, but I think that in terms of it making me look a little bit prettier and a little bit younger and a little bit fresher and healthier, that those are disadvantages that I'm willing to put up with. Another foundation that I've been really impressed with is the Hourglass Veil Foundation. This is a foundation that doesn't include silicone in it, and I feel good about putting it on my face on a regular basis. It does have some skincare ingredients in it. It doesn't really have very much coverage at all, so if you're looking for that, you're not going to get that from this foundation. But I do think that it gives my skin a really pretty finish that is very attractive, very youthful, and I really do like that a lot. Another foundation that doesn't have silicone in it and that I think is really good for my skin and that has a lot of good skin treating ingredients in it is the Youthforia foundation. Now this is a foundation that is very thick and offers an awfully lot of coverage. It doesn't have silicones in it, and it does really exacerbate the look of my wrinkles if I put it on straight out of the bottle. But what I've found is that if I mix it half and half with my moisturizer, and I usually use the Outset moisturizer, the daily one for this, that it really looks very nice on my skin. It gives my skin a really pretty glow from all the hyaluronic acid in it, and my skin feels really great. And I think that they're even accurate in saying that it's probably okay to sleep in it because it is good enough for the skin. Another foundation that I really like is the HydroPure foundation from Jane Iredale. Now that is a foundation that really has very little pigment in it, and so I do think it creates a really pretty finish to my skin, but it's not really offering any coverage at all. But what I have found is that that foundation works very, very well as a primer, so I can wear this under really any foundation that I have tried, and it seems to work really well. And if I want to wear a foundation that might be a little bit irritating to my skin, such as one with sunscreen or that Jones Road foundation with the essential oils in it, that the Jane Iredale HydroPure works very, very well for that. So I've gotten quite a lot of use out of that, even though it's not offering coverage per se. Another foundation that I've been impressed with, especially for the price, is the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Serum Skin Tint. Now this is more like a regular silicone foundation. It offers a fair amount of buildable coverage. I think you can get up to light to light medium coverage with this, and it does really seem really good for my skin in terms of the skin ingredients in it. I don't think it's been irritating to my skin. Personally, I really only use silicone foundations on occasion, and when I do use them, I tend to be pretty loyal to either the Haus Labs or the Lisa Eldridge foundations. I think that those look especially nice on my skin, but I do like this one a lot. The Glossier Stretch Foundation, this is a foundation that at first I was not happy with at all because it is offering really like medium coverage. It doesn't have silicones in it, and it certainly is exacerbating the look of my wrinkles, just like the Youthforia foundation did. But again, I found when I thinned this down a lot that it offered a really pretty look to my skin, and in that case, it really didn't exacerbate the wrinkles if I was doing it about half and half with moisturizer. So I have gotten some use out of this, but I really think I like the Youthforia one a lot more, and so I'm probably going to continue to use that one. But this one is not a bad foundation, and I think especially if you have darker skin, this one seems to be very strongly slanted towards offering people with darker skins a lot of shades, so this could be worth looking at. Now the next foundation product is a color correcting primer that is really exactly like the Jane Iredale HydroPure foundation, but it, instead of having pigments that are the color of your skin, instead has these little green balls. And so what you are supposed to do is squirt this onto your hand and then mix it together so that the green pieces of pigment all kind of get squished and mixed into this, and then you can put it on your skin. And I have tried this quite a bit. Sometimes I do have redness on my skin. I think that the issue with this is that you have to really work hard to get all of those pigment balls to dissolve, and if you don't, then you're going to have little green balls on your face, which is not a great thing even if you're putting on foundation over it. And then the second thing is, if you do get all those green balls to get squished into the serum, then it really doesn't offer very much greenness to it. It really doesn't do too much as far as I can tell, in terms of really toning down redness. So I don't think this is a bad idea, and I am kind of a fan of green correctors or green primers, but I think this one really needs to be rethought a little bit. The next product that I have some doubts about is this Laura Mercier Real Flawless Weightless Perfecting Foundation. I do think that this looks really pretty on my skin, and I don't think that it's exactly irritating my skin, but I also don't feel like it's very good for my skin. I would say that the makeup product that I was the most frustrated with and that I'm kind of the most skeptical and sort of mad at is the Say Glowy Skin Foundation. I worked really, really hard to try to get this to work on my skin, and I tried it in all different ways. I have found that if I use skincare, that it kind of sat on top of my skincare and made kind of a slimy mess that I really couldn't get rid of even when I powdered it. And then when I put it directly on my skin, it kind of sank into my skin and held on for dear life and made my wrinkles look a lot worse, and I really wasn't able to get it off, and then for several days afterwards my wrinkles looked quite a lot worse. So another foundation that I had really high hopes for was the Ritual Defeat 3-Drop foundation. I got a lab sample of that early on, and I really, really liked it, and I was really pleased about it. I thought that it was really good for my skin and it worked really well, but then they reformulated it and they added a few ingredients, including some that are more on the experimental side, like one that includes a kind of a mold, and my skin really detested it and kind of went crazy in terms of reacting to it. But I think it would have been a good product for me if I had been able to tolerate it. So the next category is concealers, and there were a whole lot of concealers that were released in 2023, but most of those were water-based concealers that are applied with a doe foot. In my experience with that type of concealer is that it almost always does exacerbate my wrinkles a whole lot, and I do much, much better with a cream foundation or a cream concealer. So there were a couple of cream concealers like that released this year, and the one that I liked the most was from Tom Ford, and it comes in this little stick. It's quite expensive, but it also is the case that I have used this really frequently throughout the year, and I still have quite a bit of it left. So it does go pretty far. I'm not using it obviously all over my whole face. I'm really just using it to touch up small areas where I see redness or circles under my eyes or other kinds of issues that I would like to conceal. And I think that this has worked really well. I haven't needed to set it. It doesn't need powder on top of it. I think it looks really pretty. I've gotten a really good shade match. There are quite a lot of shades. And I think it's held up really well on my skin once I put it down. And it really looks like I'm not wearing anything at all. So I've been very, very happy with that. It blends in very easily, so I really don't need to think about it a whole lot. And it seems to work with every foundation I've tried it with. The other product that I have used pretty frequently is from Mob Beauty, and they have a whole bunch of different shades, and they're in these little palettes, so they fit into these palettes. This is an environmentally friendly company, and so I feel really good about using it for that reason. I think that their color selection is really good, so I would certainly think that really anybody should be able to get a really, really good color match from this pretty easily. And I think that the main issue with this is that it does stay pretty oily after I put it down, and I really do need to put a little bit of powder on it. And then unfortunately there were a few cream concealers that I tried out that did exacerbate the look of my wrinkles, even though they're cream concealers. So one is the Tarte Skin Treat, one was the Fenty Eavesdrop. So these are cream concealers, but I really don't think that they're meant for people my age. So a couple more cream concealers or cream foundations that I tried out during 2023. One was from Basma. This is a foundation stick, so in theory you could use it on your whole face. I would probably still just use this one as a concealer rather than trying to use it that broadly. I thought that it looked okay on my skin. It really didn't emphasize my wrinkles, but it did irritate my face. And I think that the reason for that is because it has retinol palmitate in it, which is a form of retinol. I also tried an under eye brightener from NARS, and I thought that was a very nice formula. I thought that it didn't emphasize my wrinkles, but I'm not sure that I really like the concept of brightening my under eyes. I feel like I do better with a color corrector, peach or a little bit pinky peach, and that does a lot better job of getting rid of my dark circles than trying to make that area lighter. And then I actually do have a whole bunch of these liquid concealers with the doe foot. So one of these was the Haus Labs concealer, and this is one that seemed to be particularly thick and to be worse than even most of the other water-based concealers that I have tried. So this is not one that I would recommend for that purpose, but I do think, and this is the next category of products, that this has worked really, really well for me as an eye primer. So although I like the Haus Labs concealer as an eye primer, what I think I like even more is the eyeshadow stick from Victoria Beckham in the color Trench. So this is basically the same color as my skin tone, and it goes on really, really fast, and it goes on really, really easily, and I think it does make a very nice base for eyeshadow. Another product that I've gotten some use out of and that I have been surprised that my eyes have been able to tolerate is this new product from Pat McGrath Labs called IntensifEyes Longwear Primer. This is a primer that is clear, so it's not covering over any of the discoloration on my eyes, and it really doesn't look like I'm wearing anything when I have it on, but I do think that it's done a nice job as a base for eyeshadows, especially powder eyeshadows, and that the powder eyeshadows that are irritating are a lot less so when I'm wearing this primer. And now let's move on to powders, and the one that I think has been a real game changer indicator in terms of my being able to use certain kinds of foundations successfully is the Jones Road powder. So this comes in a bunch of different colors. There are some that are pink, like the one that I'm using in the video footage, and that is designed to give your face a little bit of a brightening. And then there is one that is yellow, which is designed to be a little bit of a color corrector if your face happens to be too reddish. And then there are several shades for different depths of skin tone. And this is a powder that is based on cornstarch, and so it is very good at absorbing oil. And what I have found is that if I am using a foundation that has a lot of oils in it and that tends to feel kind of greasy on my skin, or that my hair might be sticking to my face, that if I put this powder down on the top of it, then this really solves the problem for me and makes the whole foundation look a lot nicer and feel a lot nicer. So it's obviously designed to go with the What the Foundation from Jones Road, and I think it does a terrific job with that. I think it also does a terrific job with this Makeup by Mario foundation, which is why I'm wearing it now. I also think this is a very good powder for me to wear in the summer. So if I'm going out and walking my dog and it's 90 degrees outside and my face is going to be sweating a lot, then this can forestall that problem and make it a lot more pleasant to be outside for a longer period of time. So because that is an oil absorbing powder, I would not use it with all of my foundations, and most of the time, certainly in the winter, I wouldn't use it on bare skin. Instead, there's another powder that was released this year that I also really like, and this one is called the Real Flawless Luminous Perfecting Pressed Powder, and this is from Laura Mercier. And so it looks like this. It comes in several shades. This one has just a little bit of mica in it, so I don't feel like it looks sparkly on my skin, but I do think it gives just a tiny little bit of an appearance of radiance. And I think in terms of using it, it's a lot like the Kosas powder. It really works with any kind of foundation that I'm using. It kind of disappears. Laura Mercier also released a new loose powder, and this one does not have any talc in. None of these powders have any talc in them. And I don't think that it's as good as the powders that I really like, but it has worked fine for me. Another powder that I've just been trying out for a couple weeks now is the Lawless powder, and this one is available I think in 7 shades, and I think that it's looked nice on my skin. It kind of has a little bit of a velvety texture to it, which I think is nice. Now, the problem child, as far as I'm concerned, is this Mob Beauty product. This is a really, really nice powder. It's very finely milled. It reminds me a lot of what the Kosas powder would be like if it were a loose powder. But the problem is that it is in this compostable cardboard container, and that when I try to take the lid off, it comes off very hesitantly. I can barely get it back on. And usually it creates a big puff of powder that I find to be kind of annoying. And now let's move on to brow products. And what I use for my brows is both a pencil and a tinted brow gel. I do have very difficult brows, and they are very light and they are very sparse. So the products that I'm putting on in the video, I'm starting out with a brow pencil from Jane Iredale, and then over the top of that I am putting on the brow gel from Jane Iredale. Now, Kosas, I really like their brow pencil and I really like their brow gel. And then this year they introduced a tiny little bitty nano brow pencil that has an even thinner tip than any of the other ones that I had tried. And I do think this has worked really well. I'm really surprised it didn't break. It is very thin. And I still don't think it will last as long as some of the other pencils because it is so thin. But on the other hand, it has performed really well for me, so I certainly don't mind using it. Now, Jones Road makes a brow pencil that I really, really like, and that is the only pencil that I can use without putting a brow gel over the top of it. It has little fibers in the pencil that make it look like I have more hairs than I actually do. This year they introduced a brow gel. This is not a brow gel that I usually use with their pencil. I usually use it with somebody else's pencil, but I have liked this brow gel. It seems to be much thicker and the brush is bigger than most of the other brow gels that I've tried, and as a result it really seems to be capable of gripping any little hair that I have, even like peach fuzz, and making it look like it's a real hair. And then also this year Ilia introduced a pencil that I think is pretty much identical to the Jane Iredale one. So I have found that a lot of these really skinny pencils do break, but I think this one has performed perfectly fine, so I've been happy with that. I also was disappointed in this Victoria Beckham pencil. This is a pencil that is called a baby blade, and I think it's supposed to be named after the idea of microblading your eyebrows, and I think it is true that when I used this, it kind of gave me a heavy, thick look, and I really wasn't able to get a more natural look. So it kind of did look like my eyebrows had been microbladed, which is not really the look that I'm looking for. I want it to look like they're my eyebrows rather than tattoos. But I also had a problem with this because when I first used it, a big piece of it broke off, and it is quite expensive, so that made me kind of annoyed. So now let's move on to cheek products, and I will start out by talking about bronzers and contours. So in terms of bronzers, the product that I'm trying on in the video footage and that I think is my favorite for the year is from NARS. So these are talc-free bronzers, and they have come in a bunch of different shades, and they also, some of the shades are available in these minis. And so I think that that is a really nice thing if you want to just try one on to see if you like it. It does come in a variety of shades, and I've found that both the lightest shade and the second lightest shade have both worked well for me. Now, a totally different kind of bronzer are these Jones Road gel bronzers. So these are a liquid bronzer, and they come out they look very pigmented when I squirt a little bit out, but they blend in super, super easily, and I think that they look really, really natural. Now, this is the only bronzer that I would use on my bare skin. I don't use this in conjunction with a foundation. I do think that it could disturb the foundation if you do that, but in terms of putting it directly on bare skin, I think it looks totally natural and gives me just a little bit more life to my face. Now, Jones Road also makes powder bronzers now, and those really have a different function. I do use those over at least concealer or over makeup most of the time. And those are a little bit different than other bronzers that I've seen because they tend, in many cases, to lean a little bit more pink or a little bit more red. So there's sort of, in my mind, a combination of a blush and a bronzer, and I use them that way. And I do think that they give just a little bit of a slightly sunburned look to my face that is kind of attractive. I also finally tried out the Pat McGrath bronzers. Now, I was hesitant about this one because it includes talc. The main thing about talc is that you don't want to breathe it in because conceivably it could be contaminated with asbestos. But in this case, I feel like this bronzer has almost no fallout at all, so I'm not real concerned about breathing much of it in. I do feel like this performs well in terms of the formula, but I also feel like there really aren't that many shades of this bronzer, at least for people with lighter skin, and that in terms of the appropriateness for my particular undertone, that the only shade that would be appropriate for my light skin is really not a great match for me. Now, in terms of contours, I am not a person that really uses contour. I really don't feel like my skin needs contour, and I'm also just not a real big fan of the contoured look. I think it looks kind of artificial looking. And if I were going to use one, I think I would really enjoy using this one from Victoria Beckham. This is one that she said that she designed specifically to be very narrow so she could contour her nose. And it's a very soft product. It blends in very, very easily. So it looks actually fairly natural, more natural than most other products. I see it as being very similar to the Westman Atelier contour stick, which I have also used and like. The other contour product that I have tried is from Tower 28. I had a lot more difficulty with that one. I found that it didn't blend in very well, and I'm not sure that all those shades are really appropriate for use as contours. So now let's move on to blush, and there were certainly a lot of blush products released this year. I think that the one that I've been the most impressed with is actually by Charlotte Tilbury, and I don't even really like that brand very much. There's really nothing else from them that I have really been very enthusiastic about, but I do like these new blush wands. So Charlotte Tilbury has always been known for a number of years for making these light ones, which are like a highlighter that come with this little sponge tip, but now she has come out with some blush versions of those. And so the matte blush wands, they have 4 different shades. They're glowy, but they're glowy in a hydrating way. They just don't have shimmer in them. And the one that I am using is called Pillow Talk, and it's a very neutral shade, and I think that I like it because it looks nice really whatever other kind of makeup I'm using, and it also stays in place really well. I feel like this is really easy to use, it's really easy to blend in, it's sort of a no-brainer type of a blush, so I really have liked that. It also is the case that now with the Beauty Light Wands, that she is making some that seem to me to be a little bit less shimmery and to have more color in them. So it is sort of moving towards being more of a blush and less of a highlighter. So the color that I have for this one is Pinkgasm Sunset, I think it's called. And I think this has been a really pretty blush also. Now, a product that I think is sort of designed to compete with those Charlotte Tilbury blushes is from NARS, and this is their new line of Afterglow liquid blushes. And these don't have that wand. Instead, they have this sponge applicator. So the good thing about these blushes is that they are all super, super pretty colors. So I've tried on all of the older shades in the store, and I really, really like them. They've also introduced a few new shades that look attractive to me. So that part is really good. On the downside, these products really do not seem to last nearly as long on my skin as the Charlotte Tilbury, or really as long as many other blushes that I have tried. Now, in my last video on products that I don't think have gotten enough attention or that have mostly been overlooked, I talked about the Goop Color Blur Balm blushes, and I think that these are really, really very nice products. Maybe people just don't like Gwyneth Paltrow, but I think that these are really pretty in the container. They're really pretty on my face. They actually hold up fairly well. They're very sheer formula, and so they are not very pigmented. It's not something that you have to really think about because you're not going to be creating a look that's going to be very bright. But I do think that they create a nice glow on the face, and they're not sticky. They don't have any fragrance in them. So I have really enjoyed using them, and I think that maybe people should pay a little more attention to them. So another blush that I've really, really liked and really don't have anything negative to say about at all is this blush from Pat McGrath. So I think that this has held up really well on my face. It's really pretty. It's available in a variety of different shades, all of which actually look very pretty. And I think that it goes on very nice. It's a little bit balmy, so it gives a little bit of that Miracle Balm feeling, but it's not sticky on my skin. It doesn't have any fragrance ingredients in it, and my skin has felt really happy with it. A product that I haven't talked about on this channel, but that I would like to soon, is these blushes from Finding Ferdinand. They're kind of like a balmy type formula. It almost seems to me like it should be something that people could be considering as an alternative to the Jones Road Miracle Balm. And so I'm planning to do pretty soon a video where I talk about alternatives to the Jones Road Miracle Balm, which I cannot wear because it has all those essential oils in it. So this is one of the products that I'll be discussing in that video, and I have gotten some good use out of it. The next product is from Say, and this is called Glow Sculpt, and I have this in a peach apricot type color, and I think it's looked okay on me. You know, there's an awfully lot of blush in the world, and I think a lot of this is really subjective, and I know there are some people that really, really like this blush, and I think it's been fine. I haven't reached for it a whole lot, but I think it's fine. Another product that I picked up primarily because I thought it might be a good alternative for the Jones Road Miracle Balm is this Summer Fridays Blush Balm. And I don't think it was a really bad product, but I saw almost nothing about it, and now it seems to be totally off the market. Now, Makeup by Mario also made some new blushes. Now, they have a bronzer that is very thin and creates just a really slight wash of color on the face with a lot of hydration. And I think that formula works well as a bronzer, but I think that they tried to take that same formula and make it into a blush, and I don't feel like these have worked as well as blushes as they did as a bronzer. And then I picked up this Huda Beauty product, which is supposed to be a blush and a lip product. I don't feel like it's worked well for either of those. I think that as a blush, this really does not blend into the face very well. It looks really patchy. I had a very hard time getting it to look smooth. And on the lips, I kind of like the idea that it's a stain, but it has a really weird taste to it, and then it has a lot of vanillin over that weird taste. Now, in terms of powder blush, the powder blush that I really, really like is from RMS. Now, this powder blush was actually introduced in 2022, so it's not really supposed to be in this video, but in the past they only had very bright shades that were really kind of inappropriate for my own skin tone. But last year in the summer they introduced a variety of lighter blushes that I think have been really wonderful. This is such a good formula. It's just a little bit glowy, and I think it's really gorgeous. This is not actually a powder blush. It's sort of a gel, and so you can put it on with your fingers. If you drop it on the floor, it's not going to break into a million pieces. But I think it just feels really great. It looks really nice. It behaves really well, and I think it has blown away all of the other powder blush that I have tried. So Dior used to have these particular blushes. They are called the Rosy Glow blushes. They used to have a really bright pink color, and then they had this peach color. And it had not only talc in it, but a variety of other ingredients that I didn't feel comfortable with. And then they introduced this new version, which does not have talc and which is a clean ingredient list in general. But I have found that it's been very hard for me to really get any pigment from this at all. And this is a blush that I think should work really well on my skin. I also have some blushes and some other products in face palettes, so I will talk about those. The one that I really do like is from NARS. This is their holiday palette, and these are the first powder blushes from NARS that don't have talc in them, and they come in a variety of colors that look really kind of bright in this pan, but I have been able to make all of these work for me. This one in the middle is a little bit bright, but even that one will work for me for certain occasions, like over the holiday season, and all of the other ones are really, really usable. So Caloray is a company that makes very good mascara and very good eye pencils, so I always have some hope that they will make other products that I will really like. And this particular face palette was introduced earlier this year, and it is designed to be have a variety of different colors that you can use either on your cheeks or on your eyes. There's no talc in this. It's in this bamboo container, which I actually think is kind of nice. I don't think that this works very well at all as a blush or a cheek shades. These little holes are just really too small, and I think that the products don't really work that well for them. I think that all of these shades work okay on my eyes. So if I'm looking for a really, really understated type of an eye look, then this looks fine. Now, this product is currently available in a lot of places for half price, and I think that it might be worth it for the amount that they're charging for it now. I think that as a simple eyeshadow palette, these are fairly high-performing shadows in terms of the formulas. I think they blend pretty easily. They look pretty, they look neutral. I think it's really only appropriate for people with light skin, probably. But I do think that some people might be able to get some use out of it, and it could be worth considering. Now, this holiday palette from Jane Iredale. So I think that Jane Iredale's, their eyeshadow formulas are very, very nice, especially when they're right from the factory, and that they blend really nice. I think that these colors are really pretty. I think I really like the way these colors look like on my eyes. As time goes on, in my experience, the Jane Iredale formula, they tend to get a little bit harder and less fun to use. The other issue here is that it has this really, really red blush in it that's just kind of like over the top for someone with my skin tone. And then it also has this really, really white powder in it that even for someone with my skin tone, it's too light. So it's hard to imagine for me who would this target customer would be for this palette, because if it weren't for that white powder, I would think that, oh, this is just a palette for people with dark skin tones. But that white powder, I don't think that would work for someone with skin much darker than mine. But be that as it may, again, this is a palette that's on a good sale post-Christmas, and just for the eyeshadows, they are nice eyeshadows, and I think that these are super pretty colors. And now let's talk about highlighters, and I would say that my favorite highlighter of all right now is from Ma Beauty, and these are hyaluronic highlighters. They give a kind of a glassy finish, and they come in 4 different shades. I have 3 of them, and I think that these are really, really pretty on my skin, that it gives a really kind of a glowy look to the skin that's a little bit plump and a little bit blurring, and it gives some moisture, but it doesn't have that sticky feeling, and it doesn't have any scent in it, and I think it's super, super pretty. Now, the 4th product in this palette is called a Suspended Sparkle Balm, and this is one that it just has mica in it. It doesn't have bio glitter. It doesn't have plastic glitter in it, so it's okay for the environment, and it doesn't irritate my skin the way the bio glitter does. And I think this is super pretty. It is a little bit on the sparkly side, so if you are opposed to sparkle, then you might not want to use it, but I'm just going to put on a little bit right now, and you can see what it looks like. And I think that this, as sparkle balms go, this is my very favorite, and I can put it on my cheeks, I can put it on my eyes. It comes in 2 different colors. I just have 1 color so far, but I might get the other one. So if you ever are interested in wearing something that's just a little bit more sparkly than a traditional highlighter, I think that I can highly recommend this one. I think it's really quite gorgeous. Now, Beauty Counter released at almost the exact same moment as Ma Beauty a highlighter that's pretty much exactly like their hyaluronic highlight balm. And again, it comes in, I think this one comes in 3 colors. And it comes in packaging that you can switch out just like you can the Ma Beauty ones. I think I prefer the Ma Beauty packaging, and certainly the Ma Beauty ones are much less expensive, at least at regular price. Now, Beauty Counter does have some good sales from time to time, and sometimes their sales are good enough that it brings it down to the price that Ma Beauty is charging. And in that case, I think it would be fine to get the Beauty Counter ones. I think that they work perfectly fine. So RMS released a new highlighter, and it's the same exact formula really as their powder blushes, except that it doesn't have very much color and it just has a tiny little bit of shimmer. It has a little more shimmer than the blushes have, but really not very much, and it's kind of a champagne color. And if you want a very, very, very subtle highlight on your face, then this would be something that you could use. I also think that this works really, really well as what we might call a finishing powder, just to give a little bit of shimmer overall to the skin. So if I'm going to do that, I use a very, very light hand, but I think it's really pretty. So it gives a look that's sort of the same as that Laura Mercier powder. And then when we're talking what we might call shimmer goo or liquid highlighters, one of the ones that I like the most is from Typology. This is a pretty good price. It has pretty good ingredients in it, and I think that it's really quite good for my skin, so it doesn't just feel like I'm adding shimmer to my face. It actually feels like it's a skin care ingredient. Bare Minerals has a new line of what they're calling highlighting blush, but what I think are more like colored highlighters. I mean, they are quite shimmery, much more so than, say, those RMS blushes. So if you put this on expecting it just to be a blush, you're going to be a little surprised at how shimmery it is. I think it's a nice highlighter. Now, a product that's almost exactly like the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light Wands is this product from Laura Mercier, which is called a liquid highlighter, and it comes in the same kind of tube with the same kind of sponge on it. It's from the same factory. I was kind of hopeful with this that it would be another shade of a blush with just a little bit of highlight, but that turned out not to be the case. This is a very strong highlight, and then it does have a little bit of a peach color to it, and then it comes in some other shades also. So it's not bad as a highlighter, but it's really more highlighting than I would like. A product that many people feel was a huge failure, and that I mostly agree, is the Kosas Glow IV, which is a liquid highlighter. They are positioning this as something that you can put on your whole face, like under makeup, or that you can mix with makeup. But the issue with this is that it is so shiny, and it get kind of a Tin Man vibe from it. It is just so metallic that I would never put it all over my whole face, even if I was planning to put a heavy foundation over it. Now, another product that did disappoint me a whole lot was from Westman Atelier. I really, really like their super loaded cream highlighters that come in, a little compact. And so I was really excited when they put out this liquid version. But as it turns out, this has a fragrance in it, and it is supposedly a clean fragrance, but it is synthetic, and I found it to smell really bad to me, and that it also irritated my face. So now let's talk about eye products. So the eyeshadow palette that is by far the most popular this year, and really the biggest release of the year, is the I Need a Nude palette from Natasha Denona. Now that one does have some aluminum powder in 3 of the shades, and that made me hesitate to buy it for quite a while. And so as it turns out, those shadows, the 3 with aluminum powder, they're on the top row here. And so therefore I can remember that the 3 shimmers that are on the top row are the ones that I need to avoid. But I have gotten some good use out of this palette so far. I think it does live up to all of the hype. I think that the good things about this palette for me are that it includes a lot of shades that are really interesting, but that are very easygoing, and that I can really combine them in really almost any way, that sort of randomly even, just throw 2 or 3 on my eyes. And it always looks really nice and really pretty. I think that there's really a kind of a breakthrough with regard to these colors. They're not too warm, they're not too cool. I think pretty much anyone can wear them, but they have a little bit of an interest value, and they're muted enough that I think that they are a lot of fun. Now, the other palette that I am still continuing to be quite excited about, almost as excited as the Natasha Denona one, is this little tiny palette from Laura Mercier, called Japan in Bloom. In terms of a palette that has rose colors in it, that's very usable in the same way that I can use that Natasha Denona palette and just throw anything on, and that it always looks really good. These are talc-free powders, but I think that they have performed really well in terms of going on prettily and blending really easily. So this palette from Doll 10 is called the Doll Squad 2.0 palette. This is a talc-free palette. I think that the formula is very, very nice. It blends really nicely. It performs really easily. So the colors are a lot warmer than the ones from the I Need a Nude palette, but it does have a nice mix of shimmers and mattes, and I think this has made a nice color story on my eyes. So one of the first really high-end eyeshadow companies that started making eyeshadows that I could actually tolerate was Pat McGrath, and both of her recent motherships, Mothership 10 and Mothership 11, they all have ingredients in them that I think are fine. They do have some talc in them. They haven't bothered my eyes at all, even though they do have really bright colors in them. So this is Mothership 11. I think this is a really quality formula, and I think that they blend really easily and they're fun to use. The issue for me, I think, is that, Pat McGrath got into the makeup business because she wanted to make makeup for people who looked like her and had darker skin, which is great, but I think that especially when we get to these palettes where she's just releasing one a year, that they are very, very highly pigmented. And so it is very kind of challenging for me to put them on my eyes and have them look pretty and understated rather than really garish. And this is a palette from Kosas, and I feel like this palette should work for me. I mean, it's neutral colors. They lean a little bit warm. I think that shimmer color is pretty on me. I don't feel like I'm really crazy about this formula. It is talc-free, but I don't think it's one of the better talc-free formulas that I have found, and I don't feel like the colors really have blended together to create something that I think is very interesting looking or especially attractive. Now this palette from Haus Labs, which I think is just a holiday edition, and this has 3 shimmers and 3 mattes in it. I found when I first put it on that my eyes were irritated very, very much. But then when I just used the mattes alone, they were fine. The mattes, I think, are really lovely. They are very creamy and they blend together really easily. And even though these colors are probably not the best colors for me, these three down here, they still worked really, really well. And I still think they looked very nice on my eyes. Now, Natasha Denona did release two other little eyeshadow palettes last year that I did pick up. One is this one, which is called the Mini Starlet palette, I think, and then this one, which is called the Baby Bronze palette. And I picked up both of these because they don't have any aluminum powder in them. And I think that both of these have been really terrific. And they're not very expensive, and they've really suited my needs really great because I don't need to make a lot of decisions, and really whatever kind of eyeshadow look I put on, I feel like looks really nice. I also picked up this NARS quad last year, and this looks like it would be really boring because it's just all these super neutral colors, but I have found this to be really attractive. I feel like every time I put this on that my eyes look really nice, and this formula is really easy to work with. It blends really nicely. It does have a little bit of talc in it, but otherwise the ingredient list is really very good, and I have had nothing but success with it. Now, last year Lisa Eldridge introduced 5 different eyeshadow palettes, and this year Lisa Eldridge through Lancome released another palette. This is a collaboration with the Louvre. So there are 4 shades here that are supposed to be for the eyes, and then this larger shade can be used, I think, either on the eyes or as a highlighter. And I think this is really pretty, and I think it's kind of special, especially for people that have been to the Louvre and have good memories of it and that are Lisa Eldridge fans. I have used this on occasion. I feel like the color story in this one is specific enough that it's not like you're going to be getting a lot of looks out of the palette, but I have enjoyed it, but I think it's more of a collector's item rather than an everyday use palette. And so now let's talk about some luxury beauty quads and quints. So the first one that I think is the best of the 3 is from YSL. This is 4 different shades. One of these is a shimmer, and then the other ones are matte. And I think that the fact that they don't have talc in them, I think that this is a remarkably creamy and easy to use and blendable formula. So I did just get this, so I haven't played with it a whole lot, but I am super impressed so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this lasts for me. The second company is Guerlain, and this is a company where Violette Surratt from Violette FR is the creative director, and she seems to be very hands-on there. So there are a bunch of eyeshadow palettes, and I picked up this one, which is browns and oranges. And I think that this is a really nice formula also. I'm impressed with the formula. I do think that with these palettes, again, they're very bright colors, and they are really intended for people that like really dramatic eyeshadow looks. So it's a little bit difficult for me to get a really muted look of the kind that I usually want to wear. And then the third house is Dior, who reformulated all of their Dior Show 5 Colors eyeshadow palettes without really telling anybody, and so people had to kind of figure it out on their own. They now do not have any talc in them. Some of the shades do not have aluminum powder, and some of them do, and they don't really tell you that very clearly on the website. So I spent a whole lot of time in Sephora one day figuring out which palettes do not have aluminum in them of the ones that they sell at Sephora. I have found that this palette looks really pretty on me, and that it's more muted colors, so it's easier to use, and it hasn't irritated my eyes, and I think it's been very pretty. I don't think that the formula is as good as some of these other formulas that I have used. Beauty Counter has one powder eyeshadow palette on the market right now, and as you would expect, it doesn't have any talc. It has really clean ingredients, and it's rose color. It's a little bit like the Japan in Bloom one, but it has a little bit more of the browns in it too. I think it's been all right for me, but I like the Japan in Bloom much, much more in terms of the formula and in terms of the color story. So Huda Beauty is pretty well known for creating a wide variety of eyeshadow palettes, and most of those palettes do have have ingredients in them that mean that I cannot wear them. But this year they came out with these tiny little palettes that are supposed to be designed to be natural ingredients. They do have a few synthetic colors in them, but they don't have any talc in them, and they are I think that they remind me more of the old-fashioned eyeshadow palettes that I used to not want to use. They are made in Italy, so I think they did give it a good college try. Now, in terms of cream eyeshadows, this seems to have really been the year of the eyeshadow stick. So the ones that I have tried, first of all, the Victoria Beckham ones, and I was really impressed with these particular products when I first tried them on. I thought that the colors were really pretty, and I also liked the trench color as a base for other kinds of eyeshadows. I thought that that worked really well. I did have one of these break on me, and it kind of just fell apart in the container, and it's like in 3 pieces now. So I'm a little skeptical about how long these are going to last. I'd only had that one for a couple months. Now, Laura Mercier came out with a different formula of their eyeshadow that is like a more matte shade, and I think it's very nice, and it's a little bit less shiny than the old shades, and it unfortunately, it only is supposed to have a 6-month usage life, so I'm not sure how long that is going to last. But I do really like it, and so far I only have this one shade, which is sepia, but I think that I would like to try to get one in a more neutral shade and to try that as an eyeshadow primer to see how that works as well. The third eyeshadow stick that I bought this year was the new one from Hourglass, and that one irritated my eyes, and it also fell out of the container, and now it's kind of even sort of disintegrating in the container. So it's not even just that it broke underneath it, but it's like the tip seems to be kind of uneven. Another cream eyeshadow formula that was released this year that I'm kind of enthusiastic about are the Surreal Soufflé eyeshadows, and I was really happy to see that the ingredient list looked pretty good, and that after I did try the product that I wasn't irritated by it. So it's like a jelly in here, and you can use your finger or a brush. It feels a little bit cool and wet in the container, and it's a very interesting texture, and I think it has worked well so far. Again, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, but I have 2 different shades of this, and I have really kind of had fun with that one as well. It's very muted, but I do like the look it gives me. Now, Amy Collet is a brand that sells through Sephora, and I picked up one of her new little eyeshadows that comes in a tube with a little applicator like this. This is a matte color, and I thought that it was kind of similar to the idea of the Merit Solo Shadows. It was a color that I thought was kind of interesting, and I've kind of enjoyed using it. However, what I have heard from some people on YouTube, especially from a YouTuber named State of Kate, and also in many Sephora reviews, is that some of these shades actually came with no product in them at all, or even only a tiny little bit of product, and were totally non-functional. And my feeling is that they probably should have taken that off the market immediately when that happened, but they don't seem to have done that, and the product is still being sold. And I don't think that that's a very good way to do business, either on Sephora's part or on the part of this company. So I'm kind of skeptical about this right now, even though I have personally enjoyed using this product myself. Now, Merit is one of my favorite beauty brands, and they released a line of solo shadows, and these are matte shadows, and they are designed to be used one at a time. I wouldn't combine them, I don't think. And I thought that for my eyes, in terms of using them as a shadow, they were okay. They are a little bit patchy, and they don't really last all that long, so they're a little bit of more work to put on than they would have you think, that, you know, if you want to really get them to be smoothed out. I do think that they've worked pretty well for me as eyeliners, though, and they sell this little brush that you can dip in the pot, and then you put the eyeliner on like that. I have felt like when I've used the eyeliners that they haven't irritated my eyes nearly as much as most eye pencils, and that they have lasted really well, so I've enjoyed them for those reasons. But I do feel like I've only had these these little pots for a few months, and I feel like they're becoming more difficult to use by the day. And they are labeled as just having a 6-month usage life, and I think it very well might be the case that they really are serious about that, and that after 6 months you might not get any more use out of that. So in terms of pencil eyeliners, my eyes are very, very sensitive, and there are really almost no pencil eyeliners that I can use. But there were 2 pencil eyeliners that came out this year that were almost exactly the same in terms of the formula and in terms of how they performed as the calorie eyeliners that I do like. So one of those is from Laura Mercier and the other is from Rowan. And so now there are at least a bunch more colors of eyeliners that I can use, so I've been really happy about that. The Colfi eyeliner, which is available at Sephora. This is a twist-up eyeliner, which I actually, all things being equal, prefer. And I think this one has been okay. I don't think it's been substantially irritating, and it's performed fairly well. Westman Atelier released an eyeliner in, I think, 2 shades, and this is a sharpenable pencil, and it's just a plain wooden pencil, and it seems quite expensive considering that I don't think that it holds up very well on my eyes, and it has a cap that falls off a lot, so that's kind of annoying. I do think that it didn't irritate my eyes. I thought it was fine in terms of that, but I am not going to probably use a pencil if it's not going to really hold up for me and wear well. And then Lisa Eldridge released a line of eyeliners that I thought were very similar to the Victoria Beckham ones, and unfortunately both of those lines do irritate my eyes. So the Lisa Eldridge pencils are very, very soft, so even if you could tolerate them, I think it's important to know that you're probably going to get a kind of a smudgy eyeliner look with them unless you put them on with an eyeliner brush maybe. And if you want to, they're smudgy enough that you could even sort of dot them on your eyelids and then smudge them around and use them as an eyeshadow. Now for mascaras, what I'm going to admit is that there is an awfully lot of the time that I don't use mascara at all, especially when I'm just wearing my glasses, because I don't think that my eyes really like mascara very much, even if it's a really clean mascara. So therefore, it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to spend a lot of money on mascara. But nonetheless, I tried out a few really expensive mascaras this year, and I did like both of them, and both of them performed really well for me. So one of them is new from Westman Atelier, and this is called the I Want You mascara. And then the other one is from Victoria Beckham, and this is called the Vast Lash Mascara, I think. And I think that both of these are similar in a lot of ways. They haven't irritated my eyes at all. They have performed a little bit like tubing mascaras in that they go on really easily and they create a little bit more of an understated lash look, and that they come off pretty easily. So even though they're not really labeled as tubing mascaras, I think that they perform like tubing mascaras. And if they were less expensive, or if I were using mascara every day, or maybe if I had a lot more money, then I would have no problem buying these again because they're very nice products. And now let's move on to lip products. And when I looked over all the products that I tried, I really think that the ones that I like the most are from Pat McGrath. And these are their new satin lipsticks called Satin Allure, and I have them in 3 shades so far. I'd like to get a few more maybe. I think that the reason that people really didn't talk about these a lot or get very excited about them is because they put them in a really inexpensive package compared to their old matte trans lipsticks. So this is a small container, even though the lipstick seems to be full size, and it's has this cute bow on it, but it's still, people think it looks kind of cheap. And people seem to think that Pat McGrath is supposed to be a super luxury brand, and I think that they seem to be moving more towards becoming a middle-of-the-road brand. But I do think that the formula for this, which is what I really care about, has been really terrific. So it goes on really easily, and it feels hydrating to my lips. It's very easy to wear, and I think the colors that I've picked so far have been really, really good. So I really am impressed with this particular product, and it's the same thing with the blush. The container for the blush, That cream blush is not that great, but the blush itself is really, really good. I also have been really enthusiastic about the reformulation of the Generation G lipsticks, and no one seems to know about that yet. So I'm wondering if anybody's ever going to figure out that they're much better now than they used to be. They taste better. I think they even perform better, and I have really enjoyed them very much. And then Issamaya and their lips collection, that was kind of the laughingstock for the beginning of the year among a lot of people because of the, they only were available in a really heavy metal container shaped like male genitalia, and it cost $95, and people thought that was just incredibly crazy. But now they are available in just plain metal containers for only $34, and I think this is really attractive. And they only have, in terms of their regular lipsticks, this one shade, which is a medium, middle-of-the-road red, but I think it's worked really, really well on me, and video soon to come on this because I think it's a great, great formula. I also this year have really liked the Power Matte Lip Pencils that were released by NARS. So these do seem to be fairly similar to their Power Matte lipsticks that I liked, but they're a little bit more easygoing, and they don't dry down to be quite as dry, so I've enjoyed them for that reason. And I do think that they're really pretty, and there's a lot of really pretty colors. And then RMS came out with a line of really interesting lipsticks. These are those sort of hyaluronic lipsticks that you have to click up, and if you click it up too far, you can't make it go back into the container. It kind of has a wet feeling to it, and it goes on pretty bright, but then it wears off fairly quickly into a really pretty stain, and it tastes good to me. It feels good to me. It's a little bit weird, so I kind of have had to get used to it, and they're also quite bright colors. There aren't any that are really muted, so that has to be the kind of lipstick that you're looking for. Kosas came out with a new line of lipsticks, and they actually don't seem to have changed the old formula, but they did totally revamp the colors, and they put it in new packaging, and I think that these are just as nice as the old lipsticks. They still do contain vanillin, and I don't really like having that much vanillin in my lipsticks. But I also feel like the formula is just starting to feel okay rather than something that's really, really good for me to use and that I feel really great about using. And then another new lipstick that I think is in that same category as being perfectly fine. It tastes fine, it works fine, but it's not something that I would feel drawn to be using unless I didn't have any other really good options. There's this one from Kulfi. Jane Iredale has this lipstick available that I think is supposed to be sort of a hyaluronic lipstick. I think that this felt really good on my lips, but unfortunately I didn't like the taste at all, and I also found it to be kind of messy looking, and it was hard to get a lip that I thought was nice and neat enough to be attractive. And then basically the same issues apply to this new lipstick from Laura Mercier. I really, really didn't like the taste of this one. And it seems to be on the messy side. I would prefer it not to be quite so messy. And then Beauty Counter introduced a matte lipstick. So it tastes like vanillin, which I'm not that crazy about, but I feel really strongly that underneath this is something that tastes worse, and that they're just trying to cover it up with all that vanillin, and I think maybe they could do a better formula. Lawless's line is always called Forget the Filler, and they do a lot of products that are supposed to plump your lips up, and a lot of those do have ingredients in them that are designed to irritate the lips. I'm not really looking for my lips to look larger, and I certainly am not looking for my lips to be irritated. I'm trying really hard to keep my face and my lips from being irritated by anything. So this product is a new lipstick from them, and I think that it looked okay on me, but I do think it irritated my lips a little bit. Now maybe that was supposed to be intentional, and maybe you wouldn't mind having your lips irritated like that, but I'm not going to be using it for that reason. And then in lip balms, I feel really strongly that I like this Issamaya lip balm. So they came out with 6 new shades, and then there were 2 existing shades, and they're all available in these plain containers. And I have 2 of them so far, and both of those have performed really, really well for me. I think they're really attractive. They feel good on my lips. They don't have any kind of an unpleasant taste at all. They're just totally unscented and unflavored, and I feel really, really good about using them. So again, I think this is a hidden gem that hopefully more people will find out about. Beauty Counter did have a hit as far as I was concerned in the lipstick balm category. So I think this is available in 3 shades and a clear one, and I think that this actually tastes fine on my lips. It does have a little bit of a flavor, but it's really much more muted, and in terms of everything else, I don't notice any bad taste in there, and it feels good on my lips, and as lip products go, I think this one's very nice. And then NARS, which I've been liking pretty much across the board, came out with a new line of hydrating lip balms called the Afterglow Sensual Shine line, and I have just 1 shade in this so far, but I kind of like it. It's a little bit messy. I'd like to try a few more shades, but all in all, I think this feels really good on my lips, and it tastes good, and I'm happy to use this. And then Tower 28 came out with a line of lip balms that they're calling juice balms, and they are sort of like lip crayons, but they have some that are very sheer and then some that are much more pigmented. I think that these have been okay for me to take out on the road. I'm not sure how long they're going to last. They're looking like they're a little bit beat up now. But I think that they taste really good to me, and they feel good on my lips, and I think that all 4 colors have looked nice on my lips. I do have all 4 colors. So I'm not a big fan of Tower 28, but I have liked these. So Kosas introduced a 2nd line of lipsticks this year, and these are called the Wet Sticks. So they are much more hydrating. They're not quite as pigmented, so they don't put quite as much color on the lips. I do like these a little bit better than the other lipsticks, but again, they have quite a bit of vanillin in them. So I am not really inclined to wear these on a regular basis, but I do think that if you like things that are tasting like vanillin, that this could be a really good product for you. A product that I think is fairly similar to those Kosas wet sticks is the new line of lipsticks from Eyeliners, who is another person who is on YouTube. I think these are called Effortless Lips. They are made in Italy. They're in these tiny little sticks, and they are really nice on the lips. I think they feel good on my lips. I think she's right that you can put them on very easily and not worry too much about them being messy. They do have a little bit of stickiness to them. There are 3 colors, and I think that compared to a lot of the other lipsticks that I've been trying on, they have less of the fancy type ingredients in them. They're more just like a regular lipstick in terms of the formula, but they are very inexpensive compared to some of these other lipsticks. So $22 is a pretty good price. I also think that probably her audience likes the vanilla type flavor that's in it, whereas I really wish that they had left it out. But I think that it is a nice product, and that she's probably got a good sense of her market, and that these are probably going to do well. So in addition to their lipstick, Lawless introduced a lip balm this year, and I have this in the color Sugar Plum, which is sort of a black honey type shade. I think it's really, really pretty, and I don't think it's been irritating in the way that the lipstick was. It is called Forget the Filler, but it doesn't seem to have that plumping irritation type thing going on. And I think the taste, it does have a little bit of a flavor in it, but I think in this case the flavor has been okay for me. Let's talk a little bit about lip pencils. So LYS has a lip pencil that I actually think is pretty good. It's got a lot of silicone in it. When I put it on, it kind of has a lot of like tackiness to it, which I do think makes it a pretty good base for lipstick. Kylie Cosmetics has revamped their whole line of products, and they took all the old versions out and they came out with ones that look really quite clean in terms of the ingredients list. And the first one that I tried was this lip pencil, and I think this was not too bad. And then Jones Road came out with a line of lip pencils that did irritate my lips. And for some reason, I also found that the RMS lip pencil irritated my lips, and I'm really not sure what the reason for that was. Now, before this year, I've never had any success with liquid lipsticks. This year, however, Lisa Eldridge came out with a line of liquid lipsticks that she has managed to make much more hydrating, and they do feel pretty good on my lips, and they do look really pretty, and they do last for quite a long time on my lips. And then there also was a line of liquid lipsticks from Glossier called G Suit, and these liquid lipsticks are really not designed to last forever. They are more designed just to be comfortable on the lips. Now, what I found with these is that they do tend to be kind of messy. They tend to be messy when they go on, and they don't really dry down, so they can be be kind of messy as time goes on. And then finally, let's talk about liquid lip balms. And so the first one that I have is from Merit. So Merit has a line of opaque lip oils, and then this is one that is translucent, so you can kind of see through it. So they did put a little bit of a color changing element in this, so when you put this on, there's several different shades, but when you put it on, I do think that you get a little bit of that hot pink from the color changing element in it. So I'm not crazy about that, but I do think that, like the other lip oils, that this tastes good, it feels good, it's hydrating. I never mind using it. Now, Rhode is the company that Hailey Bieber launched this year, and I like the lip balm so much that I did buy the 4 shades of the tinted lip balm when they were released, and I think this is a really nice formula. It doesn't have any added flavors in it. I do think it tastes good to me. It supposedly has peptides in it that are good for the lips, and I do think it's felt good on me. There's a little bit of a problem with the formula. It tends to get a little bit stiff if the weather is cold, and in some cases it also will go a little bit grainy. So some people really, really object to that. I object to that a lot less than products that don't taste good to me or that aren't good for my lips. And I do think these have worked well for me. And the colors do seem to be very muted, but they are pretty. This is a product from Exa, and it's called the Exa All Smiles Lip Oil. This is owned by Credo, and I found this to be irritating. I feel like Credo does a pretty good job of curating their website, but in terms of creating products, I haven't had a lot of success with theirs. And then this product is from Say, and it is called Glossy Bounce. And I think that this looked like it was okay on my lips. I thought that it felt kind of mediocre, but I didn't like the taste of this. What it feels like to me is that it tastes like unpleasant castor oil. So many products have castor oil in them and it doesn't bother me at all, but I feel like this was maybe rancid. Now it just came out on the market, so that's hard to believe, but in any case I feel like it has a really negative taste that I don't want to have on my lips. And another product that I like some things about it are these Summer Fridays lip butter balms. And I think that for this one, I really, really like the formula. I think it feels really good on my lips. I think it's very hydrating. It feels very moisturizing. So I really enjoy putting this on. The issue with this is the taste. And so these have different flavoring ingredients based on the color. And while I wish that none of them had any flavoring ingredients in them, I found that the ones with vanillin tasted somewhat better, and the ones with the fragrance listed tasted just awful. Another lip formula that I think is quite good is the one from RMS. So this product is called Lip Lights, and I think that it feels good on my lips. I think it is nourishing for my lips. It tastes pretty good. It does have some vanillin in it, but it seems to be at a very low level that doesn't seem to be bothersome to me. And I think it looks pretty. It comes in a variety of different shades, and I've tried a couple of different ones, and I think that they're very nice. The problem that I see with this product is that this packaging may not be ideal, especially for a lip product, because they put it in this little metal tube, and it has this tiny little cap on it, and I think the cap has a tendency to come off if I carry it around. And I have heard from other people that the tube has the tendency to split. So I feel a little bit nervous about taking this anywhere, but on the other hand, just using a lip product that is expensive and supposed to look nice at home is not really ideal either. So I think that, and see what we've got here. Oh my God, I can't believe this. And oh my goodness, this cap, see this plastic here? The middle part of it totally came out. So now I feel like this is all going to get dried up. So I think that this is a real packaging failure, and I can't really advise people to buy this with this kind of packaging, but which is too bad because I think the formula itself is lovely. I really like it. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if there are any products that you tried in 2023 that I did not talk about in this video, then please let me know what those are, because I would still be interested in going and picking it up and giving it a try. And in addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then please go ahead and do that. And Coco and I love you very much, so thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Ba-da-ba-da-da-bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum.